All right, welcome back. Today we're continuing our review of our fourth BCBA practice exam, where we're going through the next 10 questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out behavioranalyststudy.com. We have for 3 practice exams, a task list study guide, and our combo pack. We also have a join feature now for our YouTube membership if you'd like to support us further. Other than that, questions, comments, please let us know. Work hard, study hard, and let's get going. Question 41. The company you currently works for offers you a job as the new employee trainer. This job is contingent on you passing your BCBA exam. Part of this job is teaching new employees how to write session notes. For the most part, writing session notes is almost the same across all companies in your state. What type of chaining should you use to teach session notes? First things first, obviously a chaining question. So we're thinking forward, backward, total task, or behavior chain interruption. Since we're teaching this skill, okay, we're probably thinking forward, backward, and total task. Typically, behavior chain interruption you'll do once the skill is already learned. So what skill are we teaching? Well, we are teaching new employees how to write notes, so session notes. And what do we know about session notes? Well, we know writing session notes is almost the same across all companies in your state. So we can start to assume that this employee knows, for the most part, how to write notes. Note writing is essentially the same anywhere you go. So there might be 1 or 2 steps in our process that we might change, but for the most part, it's going to be a very easy training how to write notes at the new company. So when we have a learner who, 1, can learn quickly, or 2, already knows most of the skill, what type of chaining do we want to use? A, forward. Is it really necessary to start all the way from the beginning teaching step 1 of how to write a note? Probably not, right? We already have these new employees how to write session notes, okay? Writing session notes is almost the same across all companies in your state. So let's assume that they can write session notes for the most part, right? Let's just teach our way of doing it, maybe adjusting a step here and there. What about backwards chaining? Well, same thing, right? Do we really need to go through the entire step-by-step process of writing a note? Probably not, okay? They're getting a job working for you. They're probably quick learners. You can just go ahead and teach the entire chain. And if you're going to teach the entire chain, you might as well use total task chaining, okay? You have learners who can learn quick, who might already know most of the steps. No need to start from the beginning, no need to start from the end. Just teach the entire chain, focusing on the steps that are different compared to maybe their old job. Another note, all this information at the beginning, company you work for, new job, new trainer, none of that really matters, right? Don't get bogged down in the long questions. Make sure you're focused. Okay, what is the question asking about? They're asking about the type of chaining. So only look for that information that's going to help you answer the type of chaining. These first 2 sentences don't really do much. So we're teaching good learners who probably already know some of the skills how to do something. Let's just use a total task chaining. It's much more efficient. 42. Lisa turns 16 and gets her license. Her dad teaches her how to pump gas at the gas station next to her house. The next week, Lisa drives to her friend's house and gets gas at the gas station down the street. This scenario is an example of what? Immediately, you should be thinking generalization. Why? Well, her dad teaches her how to pump gas at the gas station next to her house. The next week, she drives to her friend's house and gets gas station down the street. So she's now exhibiting this skill she learned at multiple locations, multiple environments, multiple stimuli, right? We have a single response or behavior, which is pumping gas. We have that one response generalizing to all these different gas stations, all these different stimuli. Her dad doesn't need to go teach her how to pump gas at all these different gas stations. He's taught her at one. She can now take that skill and generalize it across stimuli. So, what is this scenario an example of? A, response generalization. What do we think about response generalization? We think a single stimulus evoking multiple responses. We don't have a single stimulus in this case. We have multiple stimuli, multiple gas stations, and a single response. So in that case, we're going to start considering stimulus generalization. Stimulus generalization says there's a single response that occurs across multiple stimuli. That's what's happening here. Lisa pumps gas at all these different gas stations. It isn't overgeneralization. Overgeneralization, the skill is happening too much. At As of right now, based on this information, the response is happening the right amount, right? Whenever she needs gas, she can go get gas. And then shaping, are we talking approximations here? No, we're not shaping the behavior. Dad taught her the behavior. The behavior now generalizes across all these stimuli of the gas stations. So this scenario is an example of stimulus generalization. 43. Jane is failing her math class. After careful observation, the teacher notices that Jane is rarely facing her when she is delivering the lecture. The teacher gives Jane a piece of paper and asks her to mark down each time she thinks she is studying or paying attention during math class. What is Jane doing? Okay. Looking for some sort of self-management here, right? We're thinking self-management because we're talking about Jane. So what do we know about Jane? We know Jane is failing math class. We know Jane is rarely facing the teacher when delivering the lecture. We know teacher gives Jane a piece of paper to mark down each time she thinks she is studying or paying attention. So who is monitoring Jane's behavior? Is the teacher taking data? Are peers taking data? Is BCBA taking data? No. Jane is monitoring her own behavior. She's monitoring her studying or paying attention behavior. So, what is Jane doing? Well, A, self-monitoring looks like the right answer. Do we pick A and move on? Nope. We read every single answer choice every single time. Make that a habit. Make that a habit. It's going to prevent silly mistakes. So, self-monitoring, you're basically just taking data on your own self. Okay, it's essentially what it is. And that's what Jane is doing. What about self-evaluation? Self-evaluation is basically the next step in self-monitoring. Once you have data from self-monitoring, you can then compare that data and evaluate yourself against other norms. We're not there yet. Simply just taking data, or Jane is simply just taking data on herself. She's monitoring her actions. What about self-instruction? Self-instruction says Jane is talking to herself, telling her what to do, right? There's no indication Jane is giving herself any instruction. She's just monitoring her actions. And then habit reversal. Habit reversal is actively doing something different, right? So in a way, it's kind of like self-monitoring, but you're actually taking it a step further and doing something different when you catch yourself doing the wrong behavior. So we're not evaluating, we're not reversing the habit, we're not talking to ourselves. Jane is simply just taking data on herself. She's monitoring her own behavior. So what is Jane doing? Self-monitoring. 44. You are a behavior analyst working on a client's case. You have been with the same client for a year. The client is raised by a single mom who you see every session. Today, when you arrive at session, mom's boyfriend is at the house. He starts asking questions about treatment and the child, and you start explaining everything you know. Have you violated confidentiality? All right, confidentiality is tricky. We are more bound by it than ever, right? HIPAA and insurance and our ethical code have to ensure confidentiality at every turn, right? Personal information, client information, treatment information, it's all private, confidential stuff. So what is happening in this scenario? Okay. Notice how after we read our question stem, we never just jump to the answers, right? We go back and think about what the question is asking. All our work is being done in the question. That's where your information is. So we know we have been with the same client for a year. The client's raised by a single mom who you see every session. Now, today, you arrive and see a boyfriend at the house. Okay, so we got a single mom, and now she has a boyfriend. Okay, he starts asking questions about treatment, and you explain everything you know to this boyfriend. Do you know anything about the boyfriend's relation to the son, or the client, I should say? Does he have access to this information? Does he have consent from the mom? You have to know these things before you just start explaining everything you know. So, have you violated confidentiality? A, no, the boyfriend is a stakeholder and part of the team. That may be true, but if you're part of the team and a stakeholder, right, as the BCBA, if you want information from the school, you still need consent. Okay, so just because you're part of the team doesn't give you access to everything. B, no, the boyfriend has consent from the mom. Does it say anywhere in our question that the boyfriend has consent. It does not. You need to make sure you're only using the information you're given and picking the best answer based on the information. Okay. Nowhere in this question does it talk about consent. C, possibly. You need to confirm the status of the boyfriend with the mom before sharing information. Yes. Okay. Maybe you shared all this information. Before you did that, you should have said, what are you allowed to have this information? And then confirm it with the mom. Does she give consent to share that information with the boyfriend? And then D, yes, you should only share information with the biological parents. Oh, not necessarily. If somebody has consent, right, they have access, you are free to share it, but you have to make sure first. So, have you violated confidentiality by sharing all this information with the boyfriend? Well, possibly. You need to confirm the status first with the mom before sharing that information. 45. BCBA reaches out to a former client for a testimonial to use in their new advertising campaign. The former client happily agrees to provide the testimonial. Months later, the client brings in their other child for evaluation at the BCBA's clinic and starts services the next week. What should the BCBA do with this testimonial? In the ethical code, they're very clear about testimonials, and they even point out that you need to be aware that former clients can sometimes become current clients again. What do we do there? Well, we know our hard and fast rule is we don't solicit testimonials from current clients. So if that's the rule, if this client is now current, we can't have the testimonial, right? Because when you reached out, they're a former, which is fine. Okay. Then all of a sudden they bring in their child to the clinic and they're going to start services the next week. So now they're a client again. Cannot use a testimonial from a current client. That's what we're looking for. So what should we do? A, nothing. The testimonial was given when the client was not receiving services. That might be true, but they're no longer former. They are now a current client once again. B, add a disclaimer to the testimonial regarding the new relationship. Still doesn't matter. You need disclaimers on all your testimonials for former clients, but as the current client, can't use that testimonial. C, remove the testimonial as the client is no longer a former client, but is now a current client. Yes, that's the answer we're looking for. And then D, ask the client if they would like to have the testimonial removed. No, you just need to do it on your own. You have to maintain that ethical standard that the code wants you to abide by. What are you going to do? You're going to remove the testimonial. The client is no longer a former client, but is now a current client. You can see if you do all your work in the question, you can really start to predict these answers. And as you predict answers, now you're really thinking. Okay, you're applying your knowledge and you're really thinking. Even if your prediction's wrong, you're actively thinking about what is this question asking me. 46. Antonio just learned how to play his favorite Mozart song on the piano. His teacher is now working on Antonio playing certain notes louder and certain notes softer. The piano teacher should consider what type of shaping procedure. All right, make sure we check out our Shaping Let's Learn ABA video if you still need help with shaping. We know shaping, you're reinforcing approximations. We can shape within, we can shape across. Okay, so if the piano teacher wants to teach Antonio to play certain notes louder and certain notes softer, is he shaping across topographies or within? So shaping across topographies is essentially standard shaping, right? We're shaping approximations. Each response that is different and getting closer, we're shaping. Shaping within topographies, we have the right topography. We have the response we want. We just need to change some sort of dimension. In this case, magnitude. So we don't want Antonio to change the topography. We still want him to play the same notes, right? We just need certain notes louder, certain notes softer. That magnitude has to change. So we're not shaping across topographies. We're shaping within the topography of playing the note. We're not shaping across function, right? We're not changing functions here. And then none of these, no. We are shaping within topographies. We're changing the dimension of the behavior. We want them to play louder. We want them to play softer. Let's go within that topography to make it louder or softer. 47. Greg's mother carefully teaches him how to mop using a forward chaining strategy. Whenever teaching occurs, the mop is already out and the mop bucket is already full. This time, now that Greg has mastered mopping, Greg's mother does not fill the mop bucket. What is she utilizing in relation to not filling the bucket? Most of you probably get this immediately. That's great. Okay. A myth is that every question on the exam is extremely hard. It's not the case, right? There's a lot of questions on the exam. Some of them you're going to be able to answer pretty quickly, which is fantastic. In this case, what do we know? Well, we know we're using some sort of chaining, right? The mom used a forward chaining strategy to teach him. And when they taught, the mop was already out and the mop bucket was already full. Now, Greg's mastered mopping. He knows the skill. So Greg's mother does not fill the mop bucket. So she's changed a step in the chain. And why would she do that? Well, she's doing that to try and evoke behaviors, right? Chains, as we know, are perfect, right? Because we set them. But in real life, behavior never really happens that way. Okay. Very rarely you're going to have a perfect string of events leading to your final behavior. So Greg's mother wants to interrupt the chain, teach new behaviors. So what is she utilizing in relation to not filling the bucket? A, forward chaining. So be careful. She used forward chaining to teach, but in relation to not filling the bucket, she's not using forward chaining. You have to be very careful, right, about what the question is asking. B, backwards chaining. No, this is not backwards chaining. She's changing the chain or interrupting it. Not total task chaining. It's going to be behavior chain interruption strategy. Okay. One of the least talked about things, I think. We don't use it enough, but it's a very, very important thing to do once a chain is mastered. Okay. We don't want robots. We need our clients and our learners to be able to adapt even when things don't go exactly as planned. So that's what the mom is doing. She's using a behavior chain interruption strategy by not filling the bucket. 48. Last night, Juan and Jackie went out for seafood. Jackie ordered the spicy sea bass and woke up with heartburn. She took an antacid and the heartburn went away. Taking an antacid is what in relation to waking up with heartburn? All right. The key here is how they're asking the question. Okay. First, what are we asking about? We're talking about taking an antacid. Okay. And we're talking about it in relation to waking up with heartburn. Because in your behavior questions, you need to be sure you know what antecedent am I looking at, behavior am I looking at, and what's the consequence. So we're looking at taking an antacid. So let's look back here, right? Juan and Jackie went out for seafood. Jackie got the spicy sea bass, woke up with heartburn. She took an antacid. Okay. So in relation to waking up with heartburn, what is it? Well, waking up with heartburn is going to be the antecedent. The response is taking an antacid. The consequence is the heartburn goes away. So negative reinforcement. We're not worried about the heartburn going away, though. We're talking about taking the antacid. And relative to waking up, it's going to be the antecedent, right? Or, I'm sorry, the response, okay? Waking up with heartburn is the antecedent. Taking an antacid is a response. See, even I had to slow down and really think about it, okay, what I was saying. That's how behavior questions get you. Behavior questions are easy because it's what you do every day, but you can get lost in the sauce when there's a lot of stuff going on, okay? So double check your work on these type of questions. I'm looking at taking an antacid. It's in relation to waking up with heartburn. Waking up with heartburn, my antecedent. Taking an antacid must be a response. 49, which of the following is not true about rule-governed behavior? Just kind of a fluency awareness question. Okay, these are good every now and then to make sure we're just exposing ourselves to as much information as possible. So we're looking for something that is not true about rule-governed behavior. A, rule-governed behavior is also called instructional control. That is true. If you're giving rules and the person is following that rule, you have pretty good instructional control over them, right? If I tell you slow down so you don't get hit by a car, or stop running with scissors so you don't hurt yourself, and you do it, I've got instructional control. Rules specify the consequences of behavior. They do. A good rule is going to say, don't do this, or you shouldn't do this because of this, or if you do this, this will happen, right? You should specify what happens if you do or you follow the rule. Rules come before the behavior. That, of course, is also true. Okay. The rule precedes the behavior. Rules do not affect motivating operations. That is untrue. Rules can influence motivating operations. So, what is not true about rule-governed behavior? Well, rules do not affect motivating operations. Rule-governed behavior is also called instructional control. Rules do specify consequences of behavior, and rules do come before behavior. Finally, a failure to demonstrate professional integrity on the part of the provider which threatens the client's health and safety is considered what? Again, kind of an exposure question. These are good. The more you can expose yourself to every bit of knowledge that we learn, the better. Okay. So this is a definition question essentially, but it's good to understand what it is. It's a failure to demonstrate professional integrity on the part of the provider you, which threatens the client's health and safety. What is that? Is this fraudulent conduct? So fraudulent conduct and negligence are very similar, okay? Except fraudulent conduct is typically intentional, or at least you're aware of it. Negligence is often unintentional. And this specific definition, okay, is negligence, right? Not a conflict of interest. It's not ethical behavior. Will you see a question like this on the exam? Maybe, maybe not. It's an awareness question, right? This is practice. We're studying. The more you can expose yourself to novel concepts, novel ideas, the better you're going to do on the exam. Awesome. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for BCBA study materials. As always, work hard, study hard. See you soon.